Welcome to the Hear and Heard podcast. I am your podcast host, Emily. I want this to be a safe space for all women to tell their stories, grieve the hard parts, and celebrate themselves. Thank you for being here.
Welcome back to the Hear and Heard podcast. My friend Jade is here. I'm so excited. And you have 4 stories.
I do.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah. Some longer than others, but yeah, four of them.
Oh my gosh. Can we start with Hadley, with your oldest?
Yes.
And maybe start out pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, finding out, all that nonsense.
Sure. Yeah. So, I'm not shy about like my pregnancy journey. I have 4 accidents because they're not planned. So, before I was pregnant with Hadley, I was pregnant previously and had a miscarriage at 12 weeks, which was like life-shattering and good. I was not ready.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like when I found out I was pregnant the first time, I was 23. I was not in a good place. I was, not a good person. So I was like, I can't believe I'm pregnant. My literal first thought was, my dad's gonna kill me. That was like my literal first thought. I'm in the bathroom taking my pregnancy test, and that's just like where I was. Yeah. And so, unfortunately, that ended in a miscarriage, which was really devastating to me because then from there, in my mind, all I wanted was a baby because it got taken away. So I did end up getting pregnant, again, relatively quick after that, like literally 6 weeks after, which they don't recommend. They don't recommend that. So then I was pregnant with Hadley and I was ecstatic. I was so happy, really sick, very sick. I lost 30 pounds.
Oh my God.
But I was not healthy. I was pretty overweight. Yeah, I was not healthy. Although I was very thin. It was like 2 sticks with a big baby belly. That's what I looked like. Yeah. So yeah, pregnant with Hadley. I was 24. Yeah, really sick throughout my pregnancy. Went to
Were you living up north?
yeah, I was in Virginia. So she was born in May. She was born over Memorial Weekend.
Okay.
May 28th, 2011, so long ago. My water broke.
Okay.
3 days before my due date. So it was not like easy or anything like that. At like 11:30 p.m.
Okay.
Got to the hospital. I was fully dilated. The baby was crowning.
Oh my gosh.
I got my music on, and this is my first baby, so I like wrote my list. Everything. I'm like, I want the mirror at the end of my bed. I do want an epidural. I want this to be like natural, like as natural as you can with that. I want to like see my baby coming out. I don't know if I was deathly afraid of having an episiotomy, like deathly, like that is like even now I'm like, oh, so like I can't. Yeah, fully dilated, crowning. I tried to go on my chart last night and the day before because her birth used to be on my chart. And I was like, oh, I should look this up and look at the chart and the summary and everything. And it's gone now.
Oh no.
And so what happened is they gave me some sort of medication and I can never remember what it was. And everyone was like, Pitocin. And it was not Pitocin.
Okay.
It made my whole body seize up. So I was like laying in the bed having contractions. And then from there, it was like my feet got stuck like this. My legs were seized. My stomach got stuck in a contraction.
What?
And Hadley's heart rate dropped from 40 to 140.
Oh my gosh.
And the nurse literally went, oh my God, and ran out of the room. And it's like me, my mom, my little brother Rio were all in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. So yeah. So it was just like, yeah. And my nurse like ran out of the room. But rightfully so. My baby's heart rate dropped 100, you know?
Yeah.
Went and got the doctor on call and they made the decision for an emergency C-section, which unfortunately they had to put me under for. So, Hadley's dad like gotten all his stuff.
Did you have not have an epidural at that point, or why did they have to put you under?
So I had an epidural and it did not work. They put me under because they needed to like immediately get this taken care of. So they like, I don't even know if Hadley's dad was in the room, to be perfectly honest. And so that all happened. The baby came out, and this is 2011, so this is a really long time ago. I think I had like a razor flip phone back then, so it wasn't like anyone could like pictures and send it me. So in the hospital in Virginia, it's not very big. It's Memorial Weekend. There's only 5 rooms, I think. Well, 5 other women had babies that day. So I woke up in the basement.
What?
I woke up in a room in the basement with a nurse who was a woman I went to high school with. I was so confused. I was like, where am I? Sarah? Like I was so confused of what was going on. And they're like, you had your baby, everything is fine. You're just down here. There's no rooms available upstairs. Your baby's in the nursery. And then my mom came down with her digital camera to show me pictures of Hadley. So I had Hadley at like 1:54 a.m.
Okay.
I didn't get to go upstairs till almost 6 a.m. Yes.
Oh my God.
So this is less theme with all of my births, kind of. So yeah, they brought me upstairs. I got to meet her like 5 hours after she was born, which was like literally I got to see everyone met her but me. Her dad, my parents, my brothers, her dad's mom and husband and his brother came, and then I got to come upstairs and then meet her after, which was really sad because I when you're like, I have a birth plan and you think that the birth plan is just going to go work because that's just what you think is going to happen, and that did not go for me.
Well, and she's your baby.
Yeah.
And to have all these other people
Yeah.
meet her before you.
Yes. Yeah, that was hard, but like I just couldn't even think. I was like so tired because I went to bed. My water broke in bed at 11 p.m. So I'd been up all day.
Yeah.
And then didn't sleep and then went under and then it was, the next day and the only sleep I got was under anesthesia, which is not like a good sleep. Yeah. So they thought that she had something wrong with her foot.
Okay.
Her APGAR score was great, but something was wrong, like a club foot. They thought maybe she had, but turns out she didn't, which was really good because I was like, now what else could go wrong?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good. But with my epidural, it didn't work and I had a spinal fluid leak. So I had a spinal headache. So her first whole week of life, I was just in bed the whole first week, just laying in bed. When I would go to try to sit up, I'd have to like squeeze my head to sit up because the pressure was so terrible. But yeah, she's just my little angel. But now she's 14 and she's bigger than me and she's my biggest bully. So I hope she watches this someday. No, but she was the best. She was the best baby. She slept really good. She was like a little accessory. Yeah, she was fantastic. But then,
So postpartum, how did postpartum go for you mentally and emotionally?
not great. Hadley's dad, although was very nice, we did not make it longer than 6 months after she was born. He and his family were going through a lot of issues at the time, which took a huge mental toll on him. And I was like, I can't take care of you and a baby.
Yeah.
And so I chose the baby. And I feel like as much as you could consider that to be postpartum depression, I was like, I don't have time for postpartum depression. I have to go back to work. I have to do this. I have to do that. We were not very financially secure. I was a waitress and he could not hold a job. So when I was pregnant, any extra money that I had, I was like, I'm buying extra toilet paper, extra bar soap, extra whatever. I didn't have to buy anything for like 2 years. And that might be like a hoarder problem that I had. But I was like, these are all the necessities and they don't expire. And I know that I'm going to need them. So I stocked up on all that stuff. Thankfully, my mom was an insane person and she threw me a baby shower and invited 100 people. So I didn't literally, we have so much stuff for Hadley. Some of the stuff wasn't even used.
Yeah.
I had a really great village around me. I was super young, but people helped and people took care, and my parents were really great in helping with Hadley and like going to daycare and stuff. But yeah, I really just my mentality around that was like, I have a daughter now. I have to show her I am a strong woman. I have to show her what life can be like if you are independent and can do whatever, whatever. And so I really took that into account, really worked on my health. I feel like back then mental health wasn't such like a relevant thing. Like I was like, I'm fine. And so yeah, I really dove into like physical health.
Okay.
Rather than mental, but I feel like sometimes they're one and the same. And so yeah, that kind of like led me down the path of being like, I want to be someone who she respects and show her the best version of me and someone she can look up to in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks. Thank you. And then I waited 10 more years to have another baby. But yeah, so I met Michael when she was 2. She doesn't know a life without him.
Yeah.
That's dad to her as
Right.
well. And Michael and I, moved and went through jobs and did a bunch of stuff. And we had decided that we weren't going to have kids.
Okay.
We one weekend we like went and got tattoos and we were like talking about it and Hadley was like 9. We were like, you know what? Life is really good. We just went on a road trip to Colorado. Hadley was like, we can pick her up and take her wherever. I could close my eyes at the beach a little bit again. Like, I can relax a little bit. Just pretty independent. Financially, we were in a good place. And we're like, you know what? Let's just take that off the table because we hadn't really thought about it because he got a built-in child. He never knew what life was without one. And so that was a Saturday. And then I found out I was pregnant on Sunday. So yeah, we were pregnant with Sloan. And Michael was so excited because although he loves Hadley like his own child, nothing is the same as your own.
And to be able to walk through pregnancy with you, I think is a cool journey.
Yeah,
too.
Yes. Yeah. He definitely some surprises for him. Yeah. And he's the oldest of 5 kids. So he's always like, no big deal. I help raise my brothers and sisters. And I was like, it is not the same, my guy. Like it's not, like, yes, you babysat, right? But like you did not raise you did not raise your brothers and sisters. Yeah. So yeah, found out I was pregnant with Sloan. Once again was pretty sick, not feeling too hot. Honestly, the only hour of my day where I didn't want to die or throw up was the hour that I worked out, which everyone hates when I tell them that. And I'm like, there's no secret thing, but when I was moving my body and sweating, that's the only hour of the day where I wasn't dry heaving or throwing up or nauseous or whatever. So that was fine.
It's a good motivator to
It is. Yes, it is a good motivator. Yeah, I literally exercised every single day. So that was good. I was pregnant in 2020, so COVID, which was not great for my mental health.
Yeah.
I went from being a full-time coach at a gym to moving back to Duluth. We lived in Fargo. We moved back to Duluth during COVID. So it was like I don't know why I thought I would come back and it would just be like it was like I'd never left. All my same friends and the time was stopped and everything would be fine. But I came back and it was actually really lonely.
Yeah.
I remember meeting you in the next year next door. You're like, is that Ricky and Mac? And I'm like, the hell? Who are you? She recognized my dogs from the internet. So
So I worked with your sister-in-law.
Yeah.
She had posted something funny about you, and I followed you, and I was like, this girl is really funny. And then I saw your dogs, and I was like,
I know.
There she is.
Yeah. So we moved in next to Emily's dad's house. That's where we lived when we came back. But yeah, it was lonely moving back. And we were immersed in the gym community when we left. And when we came back, Michael had like a regular job. And so we weren't immersed in that community anymore. And although I still think all those people are some of my closest friends, they all have kids now too, which I was the only one that had a child back then. And so like life's moved on and stuff was busy and I don't know why I thought it was going to be the same. So we were super excited and we did the spit test to send it in to see if we were having a boy or a girl.
Oh, yeah.
And it said boy, but on the stuff, it's like, well, if a man touches the vial, then his DNA can be on it and it can skew the XYZ. So when it came back as boy, and I was like, no, you touched it. It's not a boy. I was just really in denial. Yeah. So we went to get our 20-week anatomy scan. And it was a boy because there's no denying seeing a giant scrotum on the screen. Like she's panned to it, and I'm like, oh damn, there it is. Yes. But the ultrasound tech was like, I mean, I've had a child, so I know what an ultrasound should be like.
Yeah.
And the ultrasound tech kept going to one thing and then like go back to the heart. And then he'd like go to a leg and then go back to a heart. And I'm now understanding that something's not right.
Yeah.
And Michael's just like so happy. Yeah, it doesn't know. And that ultrasound was over an hour. So your anatomy scan is not that long, right? You know, it's like 20 to 30 minutes. And then the ultrasound tech is like, I'm gonna go print these and I'm gonna be right back. And he left the room and I said, hey, I think something's wrong. And Michael's like, no, everything's fine. And I was like, well, they can't tell us.
Yeah.
Like they can't tell us something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, didn't you notice he'd like be like, there's his femur, and then go to the heart. I'm like, that's not a normal order of operations here. And Michael's like, oh, I didn't notice. I think everything's gonna be fine. But then the doctor came in. And so along with the anatomy scan, we learned that something was wrong with Sloane's heart, and they weren't really sure what it was. And so they're like, it could be something small, could be something big. But the fact that that ultrasound tech caught this at the 20-week anatomy scan when the baby's heart is so tiny is absolutely amazing. And even though I've had 2 more kids after, I've never seen him again. And we're always like, we want to thank him. The chances that we'll run into him are so good, whatever. We've never seen him. And so that's kind of a bummer. But yeah. So we, planned this FaceTime call with our whole family to reveal the gender, blah, blah, blah. So we go home to do that, and we're keeping it in because we don't want we want to reveal the gender. We want to have this happy moment. And then after we do that, we have to be like, hey, so yes, it's a boy, but this is the news that they gave us. So we videotaped the gender reveal. Everyone's so happy. We like sprayed confetti everywhere, which did not come off for a really long time. Then navigating that path of, I was already considered a geriatric pregnancy. So in that, I had more visits anyways.
Yeah.
But then extra ultrasounds, meeting with a pediatric cardiologist, and just down that path. They discovered that Sloan had transposition of the greater arteries, which essentially his 2 arteries that connect to his heart. They don't know why it happens, and we got every genetic testing done after he was born, but they're flip-flopped. And they usually say it's because the heart forms so fast that that's just something that happens sometimes. Going in and doing research on that, I always say this, like, if this was 100 years ago, he'd be dead. Or like if this was 100 years ago in my first pregnancy where I had an emergency C-section, I'd be dead, or Hadley would be dead, right? So I'm so thankful for modern technology. It has saved me and probably all my children. But yeah, finding that out and then creating a plan from there. So we joined some Facebook groups, which I don't recommend, to be perfectly honest. They're like Facebook support groups for this specific thing that happens, and oftentimes the kids don't make it, or they don't. Though these things don't get caught in that 20-week ultrasound, and the baby is born, and then it's like emergency stuff. And so that's why I'm so thankful that this was caught, because we had a plan. So for the remainder, from 20 weeks to 40 weeks, the remainder of my pregnancy was just me working on what I could control, because tons of pregnancy anxiety came with that. Like, I didn't want to finish his nursery because what if he died? Then I've got this nursery. What am I supposed to do with that? We didn't buy any baby clothes. What if he died? Then I've got to deal with these baby clothes. We had an online baby shower because once again, COVID.
Yeah.
we didn't take anything out of the boxes. Nothing was set up because
Yeah.
we might have to return this stuff. And so just towards the end, just focusing on what I could. I was like, okay, well, if he doesn't make it, I'm gonna put shelves in this room. I'm gonna make it an office. So working on whatever I could. From there, I had a couple options. One being if I stayed in Duluth and I gave birth to him, Duluth does not have the technology or the doctors to keep him alive. So they would have had to life flight him to Minneapolis right after birth, and I would stay in Duluth to recover because I can't have a C-section and they can't like bring me with.
Yeah.
And then my second option was to move to Duluth or move to the cities a month before his birth and then just kind of wait it out. So that's what I chose to do. Thankfully, people are like, why don't they tell you these things? And it's like, you don't need to know until it happens to you.
Yeah.
Like 1 in 3 kids is born with a heart defect.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, people are like 1 in 3. And I was like, well, they don't want to tell you that because then you're scared, right? So, yeah, a lot of things they don't let you know because it's one more thing to worry about when you're pregnant. And it's not like, I'm already going to eat deli meat. I'm going to eat some cheese. I don't need to worry about like all that stuff.
So how did you navigate that with Michael and with Hadley?
Sure. So because we have so much time, we made a schedule with our family. So we essentially put it out to the world like, hey, I'm going to have to be gone. Hadley was in dance. She rode the bus, thankfully, so she didn't need ride to and from. But we really, like, once again, our village really came together between, like, my best friend Molly, Maria, my in-laws, my brother Rio came and stayed. My mom came and stayed. And Michael was here for work. So Michael didn't come until maybe like 4 days before, a week before.
Okay.
And then, yeah, they take like, people would be like, I can take these 3 days.
Okay.
Molly would be like, I can bring her to and from dance. Michael would like bring her down on the weekend so that she could see me because she missed me a ton.
Yeah.
And so that was so helpful. And even after, because Michael stayed after, we like made, the month of February we had to do, and then the month of March. And then Michael had to go back to work after Sloan was born. So he came back and people still helped with Happy and everything. But yeah, so it was really great having so much help. Hadley would send videos of her reading a book so I could play the video to my belly, stuff like that. But being in Minneapolis was lonely and, and impending doom with will my baby live or die, whatever, whatever. But
Yeah.
we chose to go. So there's 2 options. There's the University of Minnesota Masonic or Children's.
Yeah.
And when we lived in Fargo, we had a friend who was a pediatric cardiologist. Shout out to Carlos. But he was like, hey, this is the doctor that I would go with, and he works at the University of Minnesota.
Yeah.
So that's what we chose to do. It is a teaching hospital.
Yeah.
So I felt like everything was explained so well because the doctor's talking to me and then he's also talking to the students and being like, do you understand it? So that they can practice that. So everything was like so thorough, so wonderful. I wish all of my births could have been there because it was so fantastic. So yeah, so I moved there a month before. I would have 2 doctor's visits a week, like check my blood pressure. I would have an ultrasound every single week to make sure Sloan was still in the right place, that his heart rate was good, that my heart rate was fine, and leading up to that. So that was good. And there's so much stuff that you don't know, like, oh, I didn't know that the hospital had a social worker that can help you with literally anything. There's so many things you wouldn't know. And as someone, we did have insurance, which was super helpful, but like it doesn't cover everything. So having them, they're like, he has a pre-existing condition, you can sign up for medical assistance, et cetera, like helping you with that. The University of Minnesota Masonic has the Minnesota Vikings donate a certain amount of money to the hospital every year. So we got free room and board before he was born. And then once he's born, they're you can stay in a suite at the hotel, and that's donated by the Minnesota Vikings as well. A lot of people stay at the Ronald McDonald House, which is a really great option, but because it was COVID, Michael couldn't have come and gone because the rules were so specific. If you're there, you go there in the hospital, and that is it. And so we chose a different route, so that we could still prioritize Hadley and Hadley coming down and all that stuff. So he was born on St. Patrick's Day. Because I had a scheduled C-section, technically my due date was the 24th, but you go 7 days before. So yeah, we went in at 6 a.m. on St. Patrick's Day. And once again, I had a C-section. I got to stay awake, but I do feel like they had a plan in place, right? So when these babies are born, they're called blue babies because essentially what's happened with the transposition of the greater artery is eventually your baby will suffocate because there is no oxygenated blood going to their lungs. So they start out fine, and then from there they start turning blue because there's no oxygenated blood, and eventually they suffocate. So a lot of times, or what they think is, back in the day, a lot of children died from SIDS. They didn't understand that this could be one of the reasons why. So these surgeries didn't start happening until the 50s, and then they were kind of banned. Then they came back in the 70s. So even thinking about that, thinking about how many babies could have been saved if they maybe would have known these things prior, but you don't just go around cutting babies open because they're turning blue. You know what I mean? So yeah. So went in, had my C-section. They're like, here's your baby. And they touch him to my head, and then they take him away. Because it was a teaching hospital, like they wheel you in, and if you've had a C-section, your arms are like, have you ever had a C-section? No. Your arms are like on these two posts. You're like on the cross. So you're laying there, there's a sheet up, and Michael was a medic in the Army. So he's like, oh, I would love to see. And they're like, no, you can't. You can't see it there. He's like, no, it's cool. I was a medic in the Army. I'm like, he can see, I don't care. And they're like, you might not care. And he might think he can handle it, but when it's a person you know, it is not. Yeah. Like you might pass out, and we can't deal with you. We have to deal with her. And the baby. Okay, yeah. So you've got this like in front, and you can just feel pressure. My epidural worked. But my arms are out like this, and I'm like chatting. I just chatting it up with whoever will listen, to be perfectly honest. And Michael's just like laughing. He's like, oh my God, you're crazy. So they take Sloan out, they put him by me. The nurse is like, click, 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 a bunch of pictures. And then they whisk him away. And I wouldn't have known this if Michael hadn't taken a picture. There was like 40 people in that room. You could have heard a pin drop though, because they're so professional and respectful, and just, it was amazing. There's nurses everywhere, doctors everywhere, because they have to hustle. Yeah. So they take them away, and one of the first things that they do is, so once you're born and you do your first cry, this flap in your heart closes. Okay. And that's how you start breathing and how your blood starts pumping the oxygenated whatever. So what they do is they go through the leg, and they put a little balloon up into the groin, and they don't let that flap close. Yeah, so that's what was keeping him alive until he could have open heart surgery. So yeah, so they whisked him away, did that. Then they brought me into a different room. And of course I had student nurses and student doctors and whatever. And I always tell people, I'm like, you're lucky it's me next. I do not care. I'm like, ask me anything. I'll tell you how I'm feeling. I'll tell you whatever. Like, I don't like it. Your opportunity to learn, it's my opportunity to teach you. Like, I will tell you whatever, and I will be honest with you. So yeah, I had a lot of such great doctors and nurses. Yeah. But yeah, Sloan got whisked away, and he was brought to the NICU, which is also just a heartbreaking place as well. And I went to my room to recover. So Michael would bring me in my wheelchair to go back and forth to see him. And it's like, you're at one of the top hospitals in the state. So there's babies getting life flighted from Fargo, babies getting life flighted from like all these places, moms weeping every day. It's just, the NICU is just really hard. Yeah. And then we couldn't hold Sloan for a few days because just there was so much stuff. Yeah. it turns out he had a hematoma in his head
Okay.
by his brain, and they don't know why.
Interesting.
It is something that is more normal with babies who are born vaginally,
Okay.
but he wasn't. So they don't know why. So that was one of the things that we had to take into account trying to schedule his heart surgery. So we had to wait for that to heal. And then I tried nursing. Um, and essentially he drank too much, which made him sick, which set him back again. He didn't open his eyes for like 4 days. And then I was like, can you open his eyes? I don't know. Like, yeah. So like there was just like a lot of things happening. I recovered really well. In my C-section or like before, they gave me shots into my abdomen
Okay.
to help with my recovery, and I felt like $1 million. I felt great. I was like up 24 hours after walking around and they're like, you need to chill. And I'm like, I'm fine.
I feel good.
Yeah. I'm like walking down the hall and stuff. And yeah, that was like the most amazing thing. I think it helped my recovery a ton.
Yeah.
Which was good. So before my C-section, they did an ultrasound of my abdomen, went through my fascia and did that for me, and I thought that was great. I asked for my other two, and they're like, "No, we don't do that here in Duluth," and I was like, "Dang, okay." But yeah, so that was good. Yeah, we had some setbacks. Ultimately, they did his open heart surgery at 7 days old. His doctor, Dr. Saeed was his name, um, was fantastic. He was very just upfront about what was going on.
Yeah.
He was very excited. He's like, I love a challenge. I was like, not what I want to hear, sir. Like,
Not about my child.
Yeah. And he's like, I love working on little hearts. Because, when their heart's the size of a quarter once they're born.
Right.
Yeah. And he's like, it's going to be great. Everything's going to be fine, whatever, whatever. And like, we didn't know what to do. Michael and I don't like to sit around. No, and it's just like, okay, this surgery is going to be 5 to 7 hours. Either we can sit at the hospital and just worry the whole time,
Yeah.
or we're in Minneapolis. Let's maybe go do something. So I feel guilty and weird whenever I tell people what we did. But if you're not in that situation, you have no mindset of what's going on. We went to the Mall of America while Sloan was having his open heart surgery. And I was like, we just like walked around. We hadn't done anything in public because it was COVID.
Yeah.
We just hadn't done anything. We'd been in the hospital day and night for 7 days, sleeping like absolute garbage, whatever, whatever. But we went to the hospital and went to the Mall of America, walked around, didn't really do much. We got back in our car and we got the phone call from the hospital that his surgery was done and everything went fine. And we just sobbed in the car together. We just like hugged and cried and sobbed in the car together because like we didn't know. Then we went back into the Mall of America and spent hundreds of dollars on baby clothes. We're like, we're going to H&M. We went and bought tons of baby clothes because like we can do it now.
Yeah.
Our baby is alive and we can do this and whatever. And so that's what we did, and that's really who we are as people. That's like let's celebrate by shopping. That's classic Michael and Jade. But yeah, so that was that. And, he had a hard journey after that as well. He developed something called chylus, which is, they cut through all of the layers.
Yeah.
Your lymphatic system, everything. And essentially what chylus is your lymphatic system working overtime, producing fat. So they had to keep a drainage system on him. From there, drain essentially it was like fat coming out because his body was producing too much of it. So then he had to go on a special diet. So I couldn't nurse. So I had to pump. And then he had to go on a zero fat diet because his body was making too much fat. So I had to pump, and then we had to put my milk in the fridge. After 24 hours, we had to scrape the fat off the top because, the fat rises up to the top.
Yeah.
We'd have to scrape the fat off the top. And thankfully, the nurses were so good about this. They put the fat in like different containers so I could bring it home. So eventually he could have that.
Yeah.
I would like mix it with whatever milk in the future. But we had to do that twice. So he couldn't drink my milk for 48 hours. And even at that, it was like such a minuscule amount that he could eat. He had his feeding tube through his nose. It was just a lot.
How was bottle feeding him?
Not great. When I got home, I did start nursing.
Yeah.
And that sucked a lot because it's not like a slow, nice, oh, a newborn is latching, they're learning how to latch, whatever. It's not super painful. It is like now a 1.5-month-old who's been sucking from a bottle. Yes, it was so painful. It was so painful for me. I would cry. I would slam my foot on the ground. I would just cry. And then I'd be like, he needs this. I would have to like hype myself up. But I would get this like feeling in my body around nursing, and I still hate nursing. Like I nursed my other kids. I hated it though because it just brought up this emotion, this visceral feeling for me. I just hated it. And so that was a big bummer to me. But yeah, when we got home,
how long did you guys stay down there after surgery?
A month.
Okay.
Yeah, he had to make sure his chylus was gone, so we had to make sure he was at like a special level. We had to make sure he was able to eat enough on his own. So occupational therapy would come and they'd teach me how to feed him. And that's another thing. I learned so much from these people, like diagrams of babies. So you lay your baby on the one side because as the milk goes down, it would go down here, and the chances of your baby spitting up were less. I would have never known that. So they taught me how to burp properly, taught me how to feed properly, specifically for my child with his ailments. Not like there's a proper way to do every single baby, right? And so we had to make sure his chylus was down, which when we got home, I still had to do my breast milk the same way they did at the hospital. And then I had to mix it with a 0-fat formula, which was a specific formula that I had to get sent to me.
Of course.
Yes. And what else? Had to make sure that he was off all of his medications and still doing well. So that took a while. We spent his birthday down there. We spent Easter down there. And Michael had gone back to work, and we didn't know when we were going to get released. And every day is a little bit different. And then they're like, you can go home today. And I was like, what?
Okay.
I was like, I haven't, are you sure? I was like, I haven't even driven in like months. I don't even know if I know how to drive. And I've got to drive almost 3 hours with this baby. So Michael could have come down, but then we would have had two cars and like, it was just whatever. So he's like, you can do this. You can drive home. I'm like, I can do this. I can drive home. I'm not an adult woman. Yeah. I was like 35. I was like, I'm a teen mom, like all over again. So that was kind of weird, but I was like, are you sure I can bring, like, he had opened, like, he's so fragile. Yeah. Like, he's fine. I'm like, are you sure? But like a lot of kids in that situation go home with feeding tubes, go home with oxygen, go home with whatever. And ultimately, Sloan had best case scenario, which we are always so, so thankful for. Hi, sweetie. Hi. Yeah. And I mean, Sloan. So I'm always like, he's being a psychopath. I'm like, but he could be dead. So like, punch me in the face, that's fine. And like that's how I deal with it some days. Yes, exactly. We're just happy you're here. So that, that was fine. And I felt really lucky. So then there's like, survivor's guilt. I had like mom survivor's guilt kind of.
Child survivor.
Yeah. And I had to leave every group that I was in because as much as you want to join those groups for information and advocacy and all that stuff, there are some parents who don't know where to draw the line. People were posting pictures of their dead kids and telling these terrible stories. And I was like, I can't. And now I have like survivor's guilt And I can't be like, my baby's doing great. You know what I mean? So I had that a little bit. And I did find a friend whose son was about a year older than Sloan, and she has an advocacy page. She wrote a book and she's great. And now she's one of my personal training clients. So she's in Florida. Shout out to Amelia. But watching her journey was really wonderful because it replicated mine and it was a positive journey. And you can still be sad and advocate for this thing even though your child is relatively healthy.
Yeah.
And with Sloan coming back, we had doctor's appointments all the time. So coming back home wasn't restful and relaxing or anything like that. It was weight checks and heart checks and making sure he wasn't throwing up. And I feel like we went every couple days for a weight check for him.
Did you feel like uneasiness, like the ball's gonna drop? Or did you feel fairly calm when you got back home?
I felt fairly calm. I was really confident that they wouldn't have sent me home if he wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And they reiterated that a lot. Like if we thought he should be here, we would keep him.
Yeah.
If there was any inkling that we thought he wouldn't be okay, we would not send him home.
Yeah.
He is in the safest place here now, and we wouldn't send him home if we didn't think he was going to be safe. And that really reassured me. They have a lot of mental health advocacy, and counselors will come see you, make sure you're okay to go home. They do their due diligence. I highly recommend going to Children's. And people will ask me, I'll have people message me who their kids have like completely different ailments, like cysts or literally anything. And they'll be like, where did you go? Why did you like it? Would you go again? And I'm like, 1,000 times over. And then they'll message me and they'll be like, it was the best experience. It was so fantastic. So that's what I always say, like, if I could have had all my births there, I would have. That would have been something, you know? But yeah, coming home wasn't terrible, and still a ton of help, people helping with Hadley a ton. And I mean, she was 10 by then, so it wasn't anything major, but having to shift, she'd been an only child for 10 years, and then a traumatic incident with this where a lot of our focus shifted. We really worked hard to do one-on-one things with her and to still make things special, have solo time, things that were just for her, et cetera, et cetera. Molly would take her to do special things, have these infatuation with Chili Billies. That's like her alone time thing that she gets to do with anyone when we kind of know that she needs some one-on-one time. She was very devastated when Chili Billies closed. But there's the one in the mall, but she's like, my childhood. And I was like, okay, chill out. We can go get ice cream literally wherever. But yeah, so just like still the village was super helpful with all of that stuff. So that was great.
I love it.